Cap talk, living in a movie.
Why?
I don't know.
How are you living in it?
S Stubs
All right, so the extrapolated stuff from Brave New World.
Yep.
I mean, do you want to just go straight into the
Talk whatever you want to talk.
stuff?
Yeah.
How old is Harrison Ford? Do you know how old he is?
Like in the real world, Harrison Ford?
Real world Harrison Ford.
He's probably 82.
He's 82. You're correct.
82. There 82. You go.
It's crazy.
Too old to be in these movies.
Like, okay, I watched something recently about him where he's just like perpetually grumpy, and he just like, even though he likes acting, he just doesn't like talking about it, or just doesn't like doing press or something, I guess, because he's always, even in the 70s, like he's just kind of,
he's never been an interview guy.
He's never been an interview guy.
He doesn't like doing interviews. But
as he's gotten older, he's either bought into that, everyone assuming that for him,
he's leaned into it a bit,
had fun with it, because there's stuff that he's done with Conan, and there's stuff that he's done with with Star Wars stuff where he's joking but kind of serious.
Yeah,
but he's still kind of being a jerk about it all entirely. And like through all this, he made it very apparent in like press, and even when Feige brought him up on stage 2 years ago when they announced this movie, like he's just doing it for the check. Like he's doing, and to have fun. He did want to do it to have fun, because apparently he came to Feige and said, "Hey, I want to do a Marvel movie. Where can I fit into this?" And that they kind of like put him, and then they were like, on purpose,
"Will you grow a mustache?" And he was like, "When I die." And they're like, "Well, I guess we don't need it that much." So
probably, yeah, we can write that out.
I mean, nobody associates this character with a mustache, so it's okay.
The most irritating thing, and there's tons of stuff, tons of problems with Brave New World, from its production, from its reshoots, from the storyline stuff that they ended up cutting and things from it. The thing that drives me nuts about the majority of it is all the ADR. All that terrible off-screen, you can't see someone's mouth moving ADR that they just threw in some exposition because they had to explain something and they hadn't shot it, or they couldn't reuse shots from it, and it's so noticeable. Unbelievably noticeable in this movie. Like, it happens. It happens in Deadpool and Wolverine. There's a handful of times when it happens. But, like, it's very apparent in this. Yeah. And it's... and then there's like tons of stuff with like the Serpent Society that they cut out, that there was an entire character that we just never saw that had action figures that were planned out for a female character, bad guy character, that they didn't throw into it. There's stuff from the trailers, like obviously there's stuff in Marvel trailers that never show up in the movies and things, but like there's a funeral scene where Sam is there at a funeral, and Liv Tyler apparently is there. So I think that Ross was supposed to die at the end of this, because when Sam has that, like, his, like, essentially the sun's getting real low moment.
Yeah.
Where he calms him
low,
down.
Big guy.
It's obviously green screen, like, after shot or like a reshot kind of thing. It wasn't supposed to end that way. I don't think, like, the Hulk stuff looks fine, but I mean, why that looks fine and the Sam stuff doesn't.
There's
really
apparently
weird.
stuff that see, I just saw something this weekend where part of those flowers, those cherry blossom trees, part of that's real. Like, there's pictures of that.
They definitely filmed the fight. The fight definitely happens. That's the third act.
That's where he does the sun's getting real low, is in that environment.
Well, right.
It was real.
Yeah, but that shot isn't real. It's just like him and Stearns talking together. That shot's really weird too.
They just changed things, man.
Right, but they changed
sun's getting real low moment probably didn't go that way. It was, like you said, but they changed the movie, so they changed what.
Right, it doesn't matter because it is what it is. It's just that's the gripes and stuff for it. But so the other thing,
did they make it from bad to mediocre, or did they make it from I think
Well,
that's the problem. Is
supposedly-
I think everyone's mind is they're like, well, we got robbed because Disney's toothless now because they don't want people to keep complaining about all the messaging and all that stuff.
Oh, you
So
think that's what this is?
Well,
No,
I don't
that's
know.
Not what this is.
I'm saying
This is studio interference.
I don't know if that's what it is, but I'm going to assume that there's a large portion of the audience who will think that way.
There was a test screening that they had last year. It's 2024 at some point where it came back bad.
Yeah.
And then they decided to do some reshoot stuff to fix it. What
They
I think
hired the
changed,
chicken man,
they had
Gus
already,
Fring.
They had
Yeah.
already filmed the majority of the reshoots and stuff at the beginning of 2024. This supposed test screening happened after all these reshoots. I think at the end is what everyone had a problem with. Ross dies, and they didn't want to show Captain America killing the president.
Wow. I mean, okay.
And so that would have fed into whatever that funeral scene would have been. And then whoever that test audience would have been like, nope, I don't like that. Captain America shouldn't have to kill somebody, let alone the president, blah, blah, blah. Because it makes, and that's for the post credits and
That's
stuff
interesting.
at the end. Also,
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Also brings up
as
how awkward that is, because that was obviously a reshot kind of early thing. How they got Harrison Ford to sit in that cell for any period of time is kind of interesting, because that I do not think that that's how it was supposed to go. But I genuinely, plus as an arc for Ross, for Thunderbolt Ross's character arc, he would have probably been okay with dying in that moment.
He's the only one who has a character arc in this movie.
And
actually.
Harrison Ford wants to die in everything that he's in.
Yeah, he does arrive in a movie and he accepts it and he signs up for it, pretty much to immediately be like, so when's this guy get taken out?
Right. Like he just wants to end it and then die at the end so he never has to do another
do
one.
I die before lunch? I'd rather not have catering here. I'll just go back to my place and make an egg Sammy or something,
I want to be with my wife, Ally McBeal, and just not have to think about life.
Ally McBeal. There's a reference. Gosh.
So I think that's genuinely how that was supposed to go out.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, okay.
So the other weird thing is Stearns himself, the leader, was redesigned. So all of his stuff where he's got the weird brain and
Broccoli
prosthetics and
skull.
stuff.
Yeah.
There is, because everything that's done merchandise wise is set way beforehand, and the concept art and stuff is they, in order to make toys and things, they have to go with whatever early production stuff so that they have time to produce it.
Yeah.
That's why the Hulk breaking out of the Hulkbuster suit at the end of Infinity
Right, that
War
pop
never
ruined
happens.
that, right?
Even though there's plenty of toys and stuff that exist for it, but that was changed at the last second. I forget why.
Because that pop ruined it.
No, it didn't have anything to do with that. It was literally like a story reason or something.
Oh well, I've heard them talk about. They said
Something didn't work in the moment.
yeah,
or-
they felt that it was weird to have Hulk have this win. Bruce has a big win.
It's a
and
big
everything,
win when everything's supposed to be
and
downtrodden
everything else
at
is
the end
down,
of
right?
Infinity
Yeah,
War. Like
right.
you didn't want to have that big heroic moment when everyone dies at the end.
Right. Everyone else is reeling from this loss, and Bruce is like,
Right.
we figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that does make sense in that context.
Yeah.
But they made toys and stuff for it. For this, they made leader toys. And he does not look like Stearns looks like in the movie.
Okay.
He looks more like the comic appearance, which in the comic, he's just got an abnormally large head. It's like a big rectangle head.
I got you. No, I'm aware.
And with hair and stuff on top of it. And there's a pop that exists, and there's branding. There's shirt designs, like graphic art and stuff that exists for it, where his design looks totally different.
Yeah.
So that totally was reshot. I think that they had filmed a lot of Tim Blake Nelson's stuff early on, like that shot with him and Sam where they're talking in the middle of the wherever the hell, in front of the hospital, I think.
Yeah,
I
at
forget
the end
where
of the
he is.
movie, he's about to give himself up or whatever, right?
And that was probably filmed with that original like design.
Yeah.
And then they reshot it and gave him more of a mutated kind of look, and then that's why it looks weird.
It's not just that. Well, it's not just that. He looks like he's in front of an unnecessary background
it's shot
plate.
weird. That's why it looks
Yeah,
like
I
it's
mean,
shot
it looks like a volume shot, and it's like, Why?
It's just, but they just didn't do the color correction and a lot of the other post-production stuff to make it look like it fits within the environment and stuff. Why does he turn himself in?
Because the movie needs to end.
It does need to end. I agree.
Yeah.
But if you humor me from the concept of the story nature.
No, there's no reason for him to turn himself in.
Like, he murdered a family just so he could get to a phone to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And he's basically like guaranteed that he's going to get his revenge on Ross at that point.
Yeah, he has no reason.
Why does he turn himself in?
Yeah.
Why would he want to?
Be in there.
Is he a good guy? Like, it's
because he wants to go into the raft.
All those villains that are in there.
Okay, Jordan makes a good point. If he's thought things through so much, he's putting himself in a position where he's either going to be protected or he can gain allies or break out or get out at some point that he's not going to have to worry about it. He's on purpose put himself there if he's that smart.
Yeah, I guess. You want to know why? Because he needs to recreate that post-credit scene from Justice League. Or Batman vs. Superman.
Right. It is very weird.
Ding, 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 ding,
Where
ding.
did you come up with that comparison? Because this is the first time I've really realized this. Did you get that from the first viewing?
Actually, it's Dad.
Oh my gosh, really?
Dad left. He didn't watch that post-credits.
So how did he know about it?
When the next time we talked, he said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, Dad," I said, "he let us know that there's more bad guys to come."
Well,
so he was like, "Oh, you mean like Lex Luthor at the end of Batman and Superman?" And I was like, "Yeah, the bell has been rung, Dad. That's exactly right."
The worst Lex Luthor is basically saying, "Hey, there's more to come," which is basically what the leader is saying in this. Yes, that's true. But
I'd watch Batman vs. Superman over a lot of these Phase 4 and Phase 5 movies, man.
Because Martha is so much better.
Yeah, I'll take Martha over the last hour and a half we've talked about that is nothing. I'll take Martha. Yeah?
I don't understand how you can say that.
I will watch Batman vs. Superman over Thor 4 easily.
There's fun stuff in Thor 4.
For Thor.
Thor. Yep.
Thor 4.
It's for Thor.
Living in a movie.
That's exactly
Thor 4. Living in a movie.
Stop it. Just because it works with some words doesn't mean that it works
Two
with
syllables.
It's like charades. 3 words, 2 syllables.
Right.
No, okay. What Stearns is alluding to in that, which I kind of interpreted as, is the incursions. He knows, he's done the math. He knows that inevitably realities because of this multiverse, because he's seen multiverse stuff pop up. How much of it he actually probably knows, or, I mean, he's been locked away for 18 years, you're assuming. What has or hasn't he had a hand in? We don't know, but he's given us that illusion that he's been in cahoots with Ross. Who knows what? Did he draft up the Sokovia Accords? Did he come up with the idea for it? Did he know that the Avengers were going to inevitably have a falling out? And this is how, I don't know. That's, if he's that smart and he can see the probability for that many things or that many steps ahead.
This guy could explain a lot of loose ends if they wanted to.
Sure, he's the biggest exposition that you could possibly have.
He could.
As just saying,
you could just call him Captain Exposition.
No, in South Park, it's Captain Hindsight.
Captain Hindsight.
He is the Captain Hindsight of the MCU.
Yeah,
but because you could just say that. Yep, I thought of that. Yep, I did that.
So
I think he's talking about either Doom being the big bad guy of whatever's going to come from the end of all this, or it's whatever inevitably will lead into Secret Wars, which is the setup for these incursions that have happened, which is the realities crumbling on each other. That's what I'm assuming.
It's interesting because I think from a movie standpoint, they have shifted away from this multiverse stuff, man.
But no, it's crap. Cap was always going to be grounded, and it was supposed to come out before Deadpool and Wolverine. It was supposed to be the first going into all that before they really started. This is the more grounded. Plus, it coming from Falcon the Winter Soldier, it had to tie up that
again. I keep forgetting about Wolverine and Deadpool, and you're right. It's pretty much all about
It's all variants in
But the other ones before that had dropped it, right?
No, we just talked about all this stuff.
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. Marvel's Beast.
Oh gosh.
It's always a part of it. It's the through line. This whole phase 5 through 6 is the multiverse saga. That's the whole point of this.
These movies are not good.
I disagree.
Okay.
There is a continuation to it.
There's
all
certainly
comes to a head at some point.
I feel like
are the vast majority of people that are going to see the last 2 Avengers movies going to have to watch all this stuff? No, but anybody who sat in on Endgame and had no idea what was going on with all these characters.
How do they do that?
How does a person do that?
I'm just saying, like, how do they plan on setting a table for these last couple of Avengers movies? Like,
it's all got to get tied up somehow, man. How the heck did they
come
up with the story for episode 9 and just drop the ball entirely?
I know how they did that.
Trying to placate all the bad word, the fan reaction and stuff to episode 8, and they tried to make good on it, and none of it worked.
But is that the bar you want to
no,
aspire
it's not.
to here?
But that's what happens.
That's probably going to be what happens.
That's what happens when you have all of this set up and you're trying to make everyone happy. You come up with a generic product like that. Now it's the Russos doing both of these. Hopefully that won't happen. But I don't know. We'll see.
How confident are you going into these last 5 movies?
Downey should not be playing Doom.
That's a huge strike. That's a huge. You're literally saying, "Hey, these last 2 movies that are pretty much going to depend on this one guy. I think they really screwed up the casting for this one guy." They
should not have said anything. It should. But again, and they're in crisis mode right now. They literally the only reason the marketing for the Brave New World had Hulk in it was just to get butts in seats. Like, if it would have just been a Captain America movie, it would have died. It would have been. You could have gotten word of mouth saying that there's this great surprise at the end of it. The Red Hulk shows up, and people would have gone to go see it, but not during that opening weekend. It wouldn't have done what they wanted it to do. Maybe in a perfect world, it would have made sense. But from a marketing standpoint, to hedge their bets, to make sure that they could at least hit a bottom line for an opening weekend, they needed to have it. They couldn't have sold this without it.
All right. Really quick.
Thunderbolts. It's not going to be as important. It's going to be ground level like this is.
Okay.
Why can't they call themselves Thunderbolts?
I don't know.
Because Ross was called Thunderbolt Ross. And he's tainted the name.
Oh, gosh. Terrible.
That's where they're going to go with it. That's why they can't call themselves that. That's why the asterisk is there. Is because it's like...
No, the asterisk's there because the Avengers are not available. That's what that last teaser trailer really is.
That's what they're making it sound like. But they're all like despondent of using the name. And the name can't be used because Ross has become a monster and has put a blemish on it. That's what I think is gonna... That's why they're gonna say. That's the tie-in.
I saw a proposal where someone was like... It would have been more interesting if Ross knew he was going to make himself have the same conditions as the Hulk to save his life, to save his own life.
And that makes sense because that's what the comics is. He on purpose, he fights fire with fire.
Right.
He on purpose makes himself a Hulk, partly to, his own ends and stuff into frame.
But it's how he stays alive.
Banner, but it's... And that too, I think that in the comics he may have had a heart condition as well.
Something. But he's got something going on, and he needs it to just
But also, like, again, falling back into the Thunderbolts, Ross sets his own team up for a Thunderbolts team. I thought for sure going into this that regardless of the ramifications of whatever the Red Hulk stuff was going to be, that he was going to be responsible for getting that team together. And that's not the case, but that would have made sense.
You don't think there's a chance that Red Hulk shows up in that movie?
Why would he need to?
Because they're all a bunch of losers who punch people.
Ross is a good guy who willingly incarcerated himself and gave up his presidential seat to a random VP that we don't know who that is.
America has needs. And that need is going to need to be fulfilled by a raging Hulk monster.
Is Julia Louis-Dreyfus the vice president?
No, why would you... Veep. That's her show!
Oh.
No, we don't know.
That would have been a weird coincidence.
That would have been funny if they did that, though. Designated Survivor style, and it gets down to her and Ross somehow. And they've got to fight they got to go back to divorce court to figure out who's going to be the president.
He was on.
Let Larry David write that. It's perfect.
He
I'm
went
telling
through
you.
a campaign trail, but we don't know who he ran with. So,
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
It'll be throwaway random president that doesn't matter, just like all the previous ones that we've seen in Iron Man 3 and
Isn't
Falcon
there
and Winter
another
Soldier
President Ross?
And no, Ross is Martin Freeman's name.
Thunderbolt Ross.
What? Thunderbolt Ross is Thaddeus Ross. That's Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's what. There's another President Ross, isn't there?
No, Martin Freeman's last name is Ross.
Maybe thinking Fox X-Men movies, maybe?
I don't know where you're getting this.
I'm just saying, I feel like I've heard a President Ross in one of these other Marvel
adjacent things.
Well, it may not be the MCU, but I'm going to look it up later.
I don't think so, but that's me. All right, so that...
Okay, so...
Thunderbolts is this year, and then Fantastic Four
okay, so
in the summer.
All right, so what do we... Okay, so...
What came from all this?
Oh, gosh, nothing came... This is
all just the...
Nothing means nothing, man.
All the pointless setups that haven't been paid off, that will probably not get paid off in the short amount of time that we've got before the Avengers movies.
And if any of you good listeners out there have anything to say about any of them, just, I guess,
I mean,
fine.
It would be cool. You can't not say you wouldn't want to see Roy Kent show up at some point
in a soccer kit,
and be in something just because he's awesome.
But look again, that's all any of these were. That's like when we talked about we didn't really talk about these Phase 4 and 5 movies in general, but like
I haven't really had a chance to it. And they've come out so infrequently.
These movies have done nothing but give you small little fan moments, and that's all that is.
That's the problem, is that
there's no substance to it. It's just like No Way Home is literally just them key jangling, as Gilman would say. Like,
but that's what people want, man. That's the reason why all of these haven't been successful, is because they're brand new characters that nobody has an attachment to. It doesn't have the old guard in it. And it's literally, that's the only reason
people didn't have an attachment to Thor, man. People didn't care about Thor.
Yeah,
but these movies did a good job.
Were failures.
But they did a good job of making us care about them and put the time into it. And one wasn't a failure.
When you put them in an ensemble,
none of those were failures.
Well, technically, no Marvel movie is a failure.
Well, there are
with the exception
failures.
of the COVID ones.
No, the Marvels bombed. Quantumania bombed.
Worldwide, domestic, not just
bombs,
domestically.
Dude.
Worldwide, it made its money back somehow. Merchandising. No,
well, look, when you get into all of that, sure, they're gonna end up making money on these things, big picture, one way or another. But again, they don't want to have that approach, man. They want hundreds of millions of dollars in return within that
want, but what
theatrical
people want,
run.
They want what's comfortable, and they want what they know. And you're going to introduce 15 movies that have completely original characters that nobody has any ties to, and say that we're supposed to care about them when we've only seen them in individual movies by themselves and not teamed together. That's why Thor was successful. He was with the Avengers. He had movies after that. He showed up at the end of post-credits for other stuff. Like, they were... Like any other good comic book crossover, they interconnect and they jump in back and forth in between each other's stuff. It's not localized to just their own thing.
These movies, this franchise has lost its buzz. Has lost... When people were going out and watching those Phase 1, 2, and 3 movies, they were eager to tell people in their lives, like, man, do you watch these Marvel movies? They were great and they were fun and it was fresh. I get it. And what they were
water cooler moments, just for movies.
And what they were doing hadn't been done before to that level, right? To that kind of frequency. They've just lost that magic at this point in time, man.
Pandemic didn't help.
So what I was gonna ask you is, like, so again, obviously, look. Even when I don't like these movies, I'm still in enough that I'm gonna go. I'm not at the point where I'm done going. Even though this last movie didn't blow me away, it was just below fine. It's just okay.
It's a continuation.
But I got
man.
problems, and I get that. So
you don't like tune into the show and expect a good show every time. You're sitting there to
you
get
should.
the entirety of like the
you
story.
should expect a good show every time, man.
When does that ever happen in any TV ever?
Spectacular
Every episode of
Spider-Man.
everything is great.
Well, again, if you're going to say that, then just keep it on TV. Don't put it in the theaters, man.
What difference does it make now?
There's a huge difference.
Theatrical goings doesn't matter when something pops up on streaming in 4 to 5 weeks after it's released.
Dude, it doesn't even take
anyways.
that long. It's 2 weeks sometimes now.
So it doesn't matter.
It does matter if they want to get back to being very successful.
They get their money one way or another.
All right.
And you can't, and none of the individual movies ever did Avengers numbers.
No, that's not true. Captain Marvel made $1 billion. Black Panther made $1 billion, I'm pretty sure. Incorrect.
That was in the height. That was right before.
Well, I understand it was in the heights. It was at the height of it all, right? But they all made good money. Even the lesser ones
Regardless,
made good money. So look,
even if it's not supposedly like as successful as what is, I'm dialed in because it's ingrained on my soul. I can't let it go. And
I can
then
tell.
You can't. There is a continuous narrative that is going here. There is not something is going to come from this.
let the record show that I air quoted with my fingers because you all can't see that.
Can't hear your
Hear or see my air quotes.
I
but
can hear those crinkles. of
you
those
can hear
fingers
the
going.
crinkles of the fingers. Yeah. The story, the ongoing story, it just doesn't seem like we're really going anywhere
It's no
at this
different than
point.
any issue of a comic book. Like there is
The bad
usually
issues of the
some
comics, yeah.
big portion, some overall narrative and some big event that usually happens. But you're reading individual books, not knowing what you're gonna get, which each one.
I know. I told you, like I said earlier, man, this is like picking up a trade. Issues 4 and 5 are just awful and slow, and they aren't doing anything. And then suddenly 6 comes at you, and it's like completely rejuvenates you, right? That's what it feels like.
But you only say that because you don't care about any of those previous movies.
Wait, what?
The previous movies nobody cares about because what I said, they're introducing brand new people, brand new characters that nobody has attachment to and trying to shove them down everyone's throats.
Oh, dude, I disagree. I give all of that very good chance. Like, dude, I've gone into all of that. Like, I was really hoping the Eternals was going to be great. Like, I have a lot of high hopes, but I will say I don't have high hopes now.
Just because because you feel burned on that. Not because you have
I've
any
been
faith in
burned
the
multiple
characters and
times.
stuff.
Yeah.
Not because you thought that it genuinely was going to be successful by having a brand new thing. It was doing different stuff. You can't not say that they weren't trying to do different stuff. with
Look, taking a swing is what, but like, you got to keep me interested, and you got to keep a story going. There's no through line really right now.
That's the problem. Majors is the problem. They
Sure,
didn't
that was
have-
a big.
They didn't have. There's no
Yes.
villain. There's nothing. And again, you've got just like the first 3 phases. If you don't have something jumping in between them,
Yeah.
and character jumping in between them to keep that larger narrative going, like the closest equivalent to this in these last 2 phases is like Wong. Wong is the only one.
I
who's,
wish
like,
he showed up more.
Jumped in between so many different movies and shown up at the end credits for things, and like it's almost like he's the only one that cares to try and keep everybody together. And knowing now that there's been no Avengers since Endgame,
Yeah.
like that's maybe also why it's been so disjointed. That there's like, so how the heck is that supposed to turn out? There's no Avengers in Doomsday's next year.
I know.
When's that gonna get? When are we gonna know that there's a team? Are they just gonna establish a team in Doomsday?
What are you talking about, man? Cap just got told, go put the Avengers together.
Yeah, but we don't. He doesn't have a team. We
But
don't know
he's
who they are.
They're called the Thunderbolts.
Yes.
All right, so look, Thunderbolts, I'm a little excited about it. I like that cast. I like that collection of
It's
characters.
gonna be fun.
It should be fun. I'm not over the top excited, but I'm looking forward to it. Fantastic Four, again, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I'm going to go check those out. I hope they are good. I want all of these to be good. They just haven't been very good in a long time. That's all. So for me, I'm still leaning towards, I hope they shut it all down after 5 movies and say, we're going to take a couple years, and when we come back, we're going to start from scratch. So I have one question.
I don't even know about if I want that. I think I kind of want it to be done at 40.
That's what I'm saying.
But in that, which is a huge shame because we've gotten no X-Men stuff. We've gotten like,
but
so
we
many
can do
things.
all of that the next time around.
Okay, so
man.
here's the other problem.
Yeah,
with
I don't
stuff.
need
It's
that.
like,
I'm not going to get I'm not going to get the pairings with the old school cast, with the Phase 1, 2, 3 cast, with X-Men that mean anything to me. So for me,
but that's the problem.
I would just wait it out.
I would just wait it out of expecting those old guard to be in there so you can see them interact. But you can't.
But that's what I'm saying. So don't even waste my time with X-Men now.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, we agree.
There's literally no reason to do this again. Like it should end at Secret Wars. It should end at a benchmark of 40 movies.
Perfect.
And just leave it at that.
And then, they can enjoy a record.
And then
for a couple of years.
We can live off of Into the Spider-Verse based animated stuff until the end of time, for all I care. None of the animated stuff matters anyways.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it, is like, but I thought it should have ended with Endgame, and I feel justified.
And that would have been perfect.
I feel further justified in that opinion. Like, they haven't done anything since that I've been like, I was wrong.
I've said my points. It's introducing stuff. It's not having the old guard back.
All right, so
what's your question?
All right, so my one question is, it's almost a wager, if you'd be so bold.
I mean, okay, go ahead. I feel like I'm going to agree regardless, so it doesn't matter.
So we're going to wager a Taco Bell dinner. Really going big here. One Taco Bell dinner is
These
what's
are not
at stake
very high
here.
Stakes, unfortunately.
Very, very high stakes. If
how
you know
inflation
what
is going, in 2 years, we might be paying like $30 for a Taco Bell
That's
dinner.
right. You just don't know. You just don't know. Will any of the next 5 Marvel movies make $1 billion?
Spider-Man will.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four may, but as we just recently talked to your dad, something about that aesthetic might turn people off. I had someone else tell me the other day that they were like, I don't know about that. And I think it literally just comes down to the time period. The fact that they're setting it in a 60s era.
Fantastic Four.
Unfortunately, as our disgusting society is right now, apparently doesn't like retro stuff.
I think it's a really damaged brand because of the other movies. And I think
people are thinking of it as that.
I get, but
I mean, getting a callback in Deadpool and Wolverine to the previous ones probably wasn't great.
However, on top of that, Marvel is also at a lower point right now.
But they're on like damage control at this
I
point.
get that, but
like,
that's what because of that, I think people are going to be.
America movie. I mean, they haven't pushed Thunderbolts nearly as hard as this, but they are course correcting on a lot of stuff. They've dumped like the majority of the things that they did probably have in the pipeline. Blade isn't going to happen. Like
no, I know, I'm fully aware of that.
Like there's a handful of other. Heck, they said Armor Wars was supposed to be a TV show that was going to have Rhodey for like when I think Feige did his announcement for all this stuff 2 years ago, and they said that was going to be a movie, and I don't even think that's in the cards anymore right now.
Yeah.
So like there's a bunch of stuff that they did end up dropping so that they can localize and focus on just the things that matter.
Yeah.
So, and again, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, other Spider-Man, Doomsday, Secret Wars. That's the 5.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of room to set up a whole lot of stuff in between those. So either they're going to bank on just those 5 narratives and leave it at that and abandon all this other crap that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
All right, so there you have it, folks. If one of these 5 movies make $1 billion, I will buy Trent a meal at Taco Bell.
If
none of them make $1 billion, Trent's gonna pay a hefty price.
You're factoring in a Spider-Man and 2 Avengers movies into
Yeah.
this. $1 billion on 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Okay.
All right. It's gonna happen.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Living in a movie.
You again, nostalgia pulls everything that you complained about with Spider-Man and Endgame had, all that fan service and stuff. You're talking about integrating everything that Marvel has done in live action form and throwing it into potentially 2 movies. Lou Ferrigno could show up at some point in one of these and people will freak out.
I don't think people are freaking out if Lou Ferrigno shows up.
I mean, I'd freak out. That'd be cool.
I understand the people who... I know that there are people who will.
Eric Bana. Anyone, any throwaway freaking... You could have...
Did you literally just suggest that Eric Bana is going to be what brings people back to the theaters?
Ivan Drago could show up as the Punisher, and everyone would be surprised. It's all the nostalgia grab, man. That is literally what they're going to bank on for those 2. Absolutely.
And I get where you're coming from. I just think it's too late. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out.
That's unfortunately, we're in the stagnated portion of pop culture where new stuff is immediately shunned, but anything that has any kind of pedigree from something of a bygone era, it's inevitable. It's going to make money. They just have to put the right people into it.
Might make money. It's going to make $1 billion.
I think that it will.
S-T-U-B-S
All done. Don't you kid. Listen, for a franchise that doesn't answer anything, don't come to me for answers.
You said it's like it only takes 2 syllables, but why Aerosmith? Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Did you hear it recently?
I did not hear it. Ragdoll is something I do regularly. Okay. I do a lot of ragdoll in life, though.
That's so out of.
But why is it Cap Talk living in a movie? I don't know.
You're trying to come up with a name
again.
For
everything
it?
with 2 syllables can turn into ragdoll.
Fine, that's fair.
All right, so.